Hi, I'm Julie from Fabric Garden Quilt Shop, and I'm here with installment 2 of our Border Creek Mystery Block of the Month. So this month we are up to, like I said, installment 2, and what you need to do is when you get your pattern, you need to refer to the number of strips you need to cut, and I'm only going to reference the queen size. If you have chosen to do the lap, that's great. You've got plenty of fabric to do either. But everybody has enough fabric to do the queen, so that's all I'm going to talk about today. So for part 1 today, these are the only fabrics that you need. And first off, you're going to be using this beautiful white on white fabric. And do be careful. There's a definite right and wrong side. Ask me how I know, because I've had to redo one of the blocks. But this is the wrong side, this is the right side. You can see I've taken a little snip out of my fabric and I put it on my quilting guide, so fabric 2, so I always know which one it is. So you're going to cut from fabric 2, you need to cut 5 2-inch wide width of fabric strips, and from those 5 strips you're going to cut 100 2-inch squares. After you get those cut, guess what? You get to do some sewing this week or this month. So we're going to be making square and a square blocks. So this is a square and a square block. And what you need to do is from your evidence bag A that you made last month, you're going to pull out all of the 3.5-inch blue squares that you had in A. Once you have done that, then these are the 2-inch squares that you've just cut. You're going to take a ruler and your friction pen or favorite marking tool and mark a diagonal line corner to corner. Then you're going to place those right sides together. You're going to stitch on that line. You're going to take this one and you're going to stitch on that line, and you will end up with a piece that looks like this. So once you have done that, let me open this up here real quick. So you have stitched here corner to corner. What I like to do is I will press this up before I trim it. I'm going to flip this over, and I want to make sure that I still have a 3.5-inch square. I've already trimmed this corner, but this is still close enough. So you can flip that back, take your ruler, and you can just, line up your 1/4-inch seam and snip that corner off. I am going to deviate from the pattern just a bit. In the pattern, it tells you to press these to the dark. So I have this one here. As you can see, it says to press this to the dark. I did that, but then I took it apart. I took this side apart, because if I was to have pressed this side to the dark as well, as you can see, there is a big bulk of fabric right there, and I could not get it to lay flat. I like to, let me see, I have another one here. This one is finished. On this one here, I have pressed all 4 ends to the light. And if you can see that on the film, now I have this X right here, that when I am sewing, and when I get to put my pieces together, I've got my 1/4-inch seam here, and I can make sure that my needle either goes right through that X or just a hair above it. If I was to have pressed these this way, I really have no reference point when I'm going here, and then I have got 6 layers of fabric to sew through. So that makes it just a little tough. So back to my original. After you have sewn these, and I've sewn these here, and I've trimmed my corners, I'm going to take 2 more pieces, and I'm going to stitch those on like that, sew corner to corner, and again, before I trim, I'm going to press them up, and when I flip them over, I'm going to make sure that I have that still have my nice 3.5-inch square. So once you have done that with all of your 25 blocks, you should end up with 25 square and a square pieces that you can put back into evidence bag A, so everything stays together. And before you get too far, uh-oh, where did my little sample go? Okay, oh, here it is. Thank you, sorry. I was going to say, after you trim off your little corners here, don't throw them away because they can become your sew-on, sew-off pieces. And this is just one little sample I've made. So these are my triangles that I used as my leader and ender. And then I sewed the two of them together and two more together. And now I have this pinwheel. I've got a lot of pinwheels to make. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but I might either make a tiny quilt as a little table topper or rug mug, or make them into a pincushion. We'll see. I'll let you know next month what I've made. So anyway, you're gonna move on now to, after you've put all your evidence into bag A again, you're gonna move on to part 2. Excuse me, we're on to part 3 because we've already made those. Let me flip this over. Okay, so now for part 3, you can put this fabric aside because I don't think we're gonna be using it again. For part 3, you're gonna be using this beautiful green fabric, and this is fabric 7. And so once again, on my sheet, I have put my little snippet for fabric 7 so I can know what it is. On this one, you need to cut, for the queen, you're gonna cut 4 strips that are 3 inches by width of fabric. Then you're gonna subcut those into 3-inch squares. Once you have cut your squares, you're gonna cut those squares again. And if you have a rotating mat, it's gonna make this a lot easier. I'm sorry, I've already cut this. But if you've got your square here, you can take your ruler. If you have a smaller ruler, it's easier. But you're gonna lay your ruler corner to corner, and you're gonna use your rotary cutter and cut. And if you've got a rotating mat like this, rather than picking those pieces up and dislodging them, you can just rotate it around, move your ruler, and make your second cut, and you will end up with 4 quarter square triangles. It is possible to cut more than one at a time, more than 1 square at a time. I usually cut between 2 and 4. I don't like to cut more than 4 at a time. But if you are gonna cut, especially 4 together, take those 4, make sure that those 3-inch squares are perfectly stacked. If you take them to your ironing board and just, give them a good iron, they do stick together, and it just makes it a lot less likely that they're gonna shift when you do your cutting. So once you have cut all your quarter square triangles, these are gonna go into evidence bag E, and I have marked those with my little alphabetties, and those can be set aside. You won't need those again this month. Then we're gonna move on to part 4, which is also using this pretty green fabric. And from these you need to cut 11 strips. It seems like a lot, but you do need those 11 strips. And then because you're gonna cut 216 2-inch squares. So once those squares are cut, then you can put those into evidence bag F that I have marked with my alphabetty, and you can put those aside because you don't need those again. Then, and for part 5, we are moving on to more cutting. From this you need, this is fabric 4, which you've already used. You used that last month. So your evidence sheet has already marked, so you shouldn't have any problem finding that. So from fabric 4, you're gonna cut 5 strips that are 3.5 inches wide, and then from those strips, you're gonna cut 2-inch rectangles. And those are gonna go in your evidence bag G. And that's it for this month. At the bottom, at the end of your pattern, there is a list of what you should have. So, go ahead and check that you have got everything in A through G that you need. Tuck those away, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you.